So in this video, I wanted to chat with you about what slow living actually is and bust some myths about what it's not, and also share some very simple and practical ways for you to get into slow living and slow down your life like immediately. Slow living isn't about doing everything just, at a snail's pace and just dragging everything out. It's about giving your tasks and projects the time it deserves and for you to be able to complete them at your pace, at a pace that is more human. It's a way of thinking and living that makes us more present and more intentional with where we put our resources, and makes us really be able to tune in to what is actually important, what is the things that we want to put our time and effort into. And to me, slow living is a lot about creating space around myself. It's about making room for myself to think and to finish thoughts without feeling rushed. Authors like Carl Honoré, Anne Hainan, Kathy Gottberg, and Cal Newport are all on the same page. Doing less things, but doing them better by giving them the time and attention they deserve is a much more productive and human-friendly way to live your life. Let's talk about some common myths that I feel is surrounding this slow living movement that you see online nowadays. And one of them is that you have to move to the countryside. You have to uproot your whole life, leave the city behind, and just go to a cottage and live in the forest. And that's of course not the truth. The whole point of the slow living mindset is that you can apply it to anywhere. It doesn't matter your location. If you enjoy living in the countryside and that's what you want, like for me, I was born and raised in the countryside and then I moved to the city, didn't enjoy it, and so I wanted to move back out to the countryside. And that's why I moved. And to me, it helps to have this surroundings of closer to nature. People are not living as close to my house. But I still have high-speed internet here. I can work myself into oblivion, obviously. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can implement the slow living lifestyle. It's not so much about changing your surrounding or your location. It's more internal in that you change how you approach life. The next myth is that you have to quit your job and just mosey around and do nothing because your job is stressing you out so much. And believe me, when the realization hits you, if you quit your job because you're so stressed by it, with no plan, you will feel even more stressed when you realize that the bills still need to be paid, even though you want to live slower. And also, saying that work is the thing that is stressing you out, that might be true. I'm not saying it's not, but you have to try and dissect your work life into more parts to really dive into what is it about your work that is stressing you out. You have, there's the colleagues, the timelines, the culture, projects, your role, and all of the things, all of the pieces that are making up your whole work life. Maybe you can even single out parts of it that is stressing you out. I highly recommend to read Slow Productivity by Cal Newport, which I also made a video about, which you can go and watch later. Another myth that I feel is stopping a lot of people in their tracks is this notion that you have to go full-blown cottagecore, living the hygge aesthetic, otherwise you cannot do this, and it doesn't really feel like you are living this slow living lifestyle. A lot of the content around slow living is very romanticizing about this whole lifestyle. And it's easy to feel like you have to look in a certain way or behave in a certain way or have a certain personality for the slow living to work for you. Let's be honest, look at most of us, we just look regular, regular people. We're just simply not this wonderful mystic forest fairies dancing around in the forests all day. And our house just isn't a like magazine cover of beige coziness. There's laundry and dishes and breadcrumbs and dog fur everywhere. Because that's just real life. And if you have that idea in your mind, maybe even subconsciously, that you have to, if you are not, this floating fairy in a fantasy cottage in the woods, slow living is unattainable to you. That is a myth that we really have to break out of. Because it's a lot more about the mindset and of how you approach life. And if you are a magical fairy who's floating around in the forest in your magical cottage, there's of course nothing wrong with that. But I want to speak to you who, as me, is a regular person with dog fur on all of your clothes. And that slow living is attainable to you. It's like Nathan Williams said, slow living is less of a style and more deeply personal mentality. And I'm gonna be honest here, I have absolutely not always been into this slow living like mentality and this lifestyle. But one of the like tipping point is, in Sweden at least, it's very common when employers put out job that they're hiring. They often write stuff like, oh, you like to have a lot of irons in the fire, and you like to do many things and stuff like that. And I always was like, yeah, but that's me. I can do that. But that truth was just like, yeah, but because I'm good at it and I can do it, that means that it's me, that's what I want. But then I was just like, no, but I hate that. I hate doing so many things at once. I hate being scattered with my attention, my focus. That's like the worst thing ever. And so this was like the first piece of the puzzle where I got into the slow living mindset, so to say. And really the ball just kept rolling from there. And I made this move before. I mean, I made this radical change and we moved far away from the city up to the north of Sweden. And I started my own business and was really 100%, almost 100% able to run my own, decide about my time and dictate how I spend my time. I mean, of course you have clients and everything, but for the most part, I mean, the boss was me. But then somewhere along the lines, the shadows of frantic productivity and never doing enough suddenly seemed to be able to creep into my life more and more, and little do I know, then I found myself burnt out. So I know it can be done. You can make the shift from this frantic, doing everything, multitasking life to a slower lifestyle. It will require some work, but it can be done. And so I'm here back to basics and getting into it once again. So how can we, sweatpants wearing regular people, get into slow living in a very simple way? And when I say simple, it's because the tips I'm about to give you are in themselves simple, but they are not going to be easy. And the first thing that I want to give you to practice is practice doing just one thing. For example, I got this exercise from therapy that, try to, when you are boiling an egg, just boil the egg. Don't do anything else. Or switching lines at the store because it's moving too slow for your liking. Just accept that it's taking time. And this sounds so easy, but really it felt, when I started doing these things, I just felt like I was dying because it was so hard. Every inch of my body, and my mind, we were just so used to having this frantic pace of life. So imagine just when you're staying there for 6.5 minutes waiting for your eggs to boil, and not squeezing in other tasks that needs to get done, like folding away the laundry or unloading the dishwasher or scrolling your phone, of course. You're just there watching the eggs boil and waiting for the timer to beep. Another thing that I've been doing is taking strolls outside in nature. And when I say stroll, I mean stroll. Don't walk, absolutely not power walk. Take a stroll and use your senses to ground yourself in the moment, to like drag out your consciousness to the present moment, because that's what it feels like to me. My mind is often in the future, like I need to be somewhere else. This just needs to be checked off my to-do list, and I don't really reap the benefits of the thing that I'm doing that is supposed to be recovery. So use your senses, like what do you hear? What do you see? Can you smell anything? And just, if you feel like that's pure agony and you just want to run and get it over with, try to stop in that feeling, in that emotion, what you're experiencing, and don't judge it. Just accept that this is what I'm feeling now. It's nothing strange that I am feeling this, especially not if you have been, like me, running and running and running and always optimizing and getting on to the next thing and just letting the world around you dictate your speed. It's nothing strange that you feel like your body is just filled with ants and you just want to get out of it. But stop and take a couple of breaths. Teach your body and your mind that it's okay to be slower. Let's talk a little bit too about work and how we can implement our slower lifestyle into work. Of course, like doing one thing and not multiple things, because multitasking, that's not really a real thing. What you're doing is task switching, which takes a lot of energy. And you don't get really anything done. You don't make any meaningful progress on any of the projects. And again, it's just a behavior that helps you speed up the pace at which you live. So simplifying your schedule is going to help you with this. If your schedule looks anything like this, you have sprinkles of commitments everywhere that you have to get to. Like we said before, a fundamental thing about slow living is to do fewer things, but to honor those things with attention, time, and energy to finish them and to do them really well. And to be able to do that, you have to get rid of all these time slots, sprinkles in your calendar, because you're not allowing your mind to get into deep thinking and to get real good work done. So by getting rid of all of your little time slot sprinkles and instead blocking out longer periods of time in your calendar, you will automatically slow down the pace at which you work. So no, slow living isn't about how you look or how many linen dresses you have or how clean your house is and how hygge your house is. You can still be who you are and still live a slow, intentional life.